G'day everyone, I'm Smokescreen and welcome back to another video, and here we go with another FIA Nations Cup. This is round 2, so of course this is the round that was immediately after the first one, which was the Bugatti Veyron around Autodromo Lago Maggiore. We're here with round 2, where it's a one-make, N200 one-make, around a Kyoto Driving Park Yamagiwa 2. So the Yamagiwa circuit, the Yamagiwa portion of Kyoto Driving Park, in the reverse direction. That's what the 2 denotes, and we are in the Mazda Roadster Touring Cars. Bit of a debate whether they should be in sort of Group N, which are road cars, but because it's literally a touring car, it's in the name. But we'll save that debate for another time. I reckon it would be a fantastic addition in Group 4, but no, it's N200, they decide, even though it's literally not a road car. But anyway, we go out for qualifying here. A good lap time is low 150s, or like 150s, 151 kind of realm here, but we enter the lobby now, and there's a new guy currently in second, Norm XC. I have not seen him before, but we'll go through my fastest qualifying time. It was the first time I set coming into turn 1, braking just before the light pole, just beyond the fence on the right hand side after the 100 meter board. Second gear for turn 1, slide it out on the exit. This car does like to slide a little bit, so we've got to tame that. Coming into turn 2 and 3, braking just before the 50 meter board, down 1 gear and throw it in. Keep the rolling speed up through there and use the curbs to your advantage. Around this circuit, a lot of usable curbs. Coming up towards turn 4, braking just on the start of the curb on the left hand side. Second gear once again, get some rotation at the apex and then nail the throttle on the exit and control your oversteer with the steering rather than throttle. The car will slide out to the exit and get a good exit as well. Through turn 5, easily flat, down the hill towards the triple chicane of turn 6, 7 and 8, coming into turn 6, braking just on the apex of 6 and cutting these corners as much as possible, keeping 2 wheels on the curb. You can have 2 wheels on the grass on the inside of those curbs. Try and get a fast exit as it's a very steep uphill run through the shallow left-hander of turn 9. Coming into turn 10, no brakes for this corner, turning in and lifting off the throttle just as the curb ends on the left hand side, and then pretty much get back on the throttle once the car begins to rotate towards the inside curb. Out onto the exit there, up the back straight, heading towards the Acer section. We're heading downhill, so it probably would be flat out if we were going uphill, but it's not quite. Coming through here, lifting just as we hit that apex of turn 12, and then try and keep the rolling speed up and use all these curbs through turn 13, turn 14. Final corner, braking just on the 100 meter mark, and then turning in at the same time in 4th gear around this corner, and try and get a nice smooth run of least resistance through there, get a nice exit, and we're heading up towards the line. Not quite sure where I'm moving over to the right, that would have lost us a little bit of time. Come across the line, a 151.8, provisional second position behind the new player here. And then we were up on our time on the following sort of run here, but then I made this mistake here. The car completely twitched out going through turn 12, and I completely ran across the grass. And I had enough time to go for a second lap, but unfortunately, yes, I got a track limits penalty. The penalty line that I was going to go through is on the front straight, so it would have ruined my next lap as well. Absolutely excellent. That's what we like to see. It's not what we like to see. We're in 3rd position at this point. We're still 3/10 off Norm there. So you can see how it probably would have been advantageous for us to be able to complete another lap here. But that rounds out the session. You can see we leave that session and pretty much we just sit in the pit lane here and cross our fingers. So I'm going to fast forward time here, and there's going to be some people coming across the line, and hopefully none of us sort of push us out of our position, but Captain Muffin there sets a 51.83 instead of my 51.88. He improves to a 51.7, so that puts me down to 4th. But as always with these FIA combinations, let's enjoy the beautiful introduction. How good as always. So we meet ourselves on the grid here. We can begin to talk about some of the strategies of this race here. And my goodness, this was actually an absolute nail-biter from start to finish. So I've kept the whole race unedited, so it's a slightly longer video than usual, but I hope it is enjoyable, as enjoyable for you as it was for me. Mazda Roadster Touring Cars. Standing start here, which is sort of characteristic of this kind of racing here. Traction control on 1 as we're on sports tyres, so not as much grip, and brake balance set to the rear. We get a much better launch than we did at Maggiore, and we get a much better launch than the guy in 3rd place. You might have just spotted he had a little bit of wheel spin. We're on the left-hand side of the circuit here, which is the inside for turn 1, so we're on the inside of Ikatosh 23 there. We immediately get a move up from the start here, and you can see he's just left out to dry on the outside, and I'm gonna move over to the racing line here. Slightly sort of risky, as he could have flown up the inside, but the chicane here is not really a good place to sort of stick your nose up alongside. So the strategy for this race, it's a no stop. We have sports soft tyres on these cars, so they wear very slowly, even with the 15 times tyre multiplier we're running here, and then fuel is only on 2 times, so more than enough to probably do double the distance of the race on the tank of fuel, so absolutely no worries. The tyres will drop off after about halfway through the race. We just have to sort of look after our tyres, so that is why we set that brake balance to the rear, as this car likes to sort of chew up its front tyres. Get a poor run through the triple chicane halfway through the lap there. You can see we're a little bit deep on the brakes and we're getting swarmed from behind. We defend all the way over to the right-hand side, which of course is the inside for the long right-hander, and the top 2 have just bolted. They have broken the slipstream range there, so we're probably not going to be able to catch those up, but we have been overtaken by Wugugurigini, is I think how we pronounce that. I'm probably just going to call him, well, I was going to say I'm going to call him Wog, but I guess some people might find that offensive. But we'll call him W. How about that? Coming through the S's here at the end of the lap. We're coming up to the back of W here, and then heading up through the final corner, turn 15 here. We take a nice narrow entry to defend that position, and we take a slow mid apex. We don't quite park it, however, and W has that underlap. Underlap on the exit of the corner. It is, of course, the outside for turn 1. So we should be able to defend the position from this point here. Heading into turn 1, we brake just after the light pole, or before the light pole, just beyond the fence. And I think we're stronger in turn 1 compared to W here behind. He's just dropped off a few tenths heading through there, and you might have spotted Norm up ahead had a half-second track limits penalty going through the triple chicane of the previous lap. He served that on the main straight. It's just brought that pack ever closer, or I say pack, it's really a pair. So if they can continue to fight, continue to get themselves penalties, they will back themselves up back into this pack here, what is essentially the front of the peloton, I guess, of this race. Here is me on the front of the sort of main mid-pack here, up in 3rd position, not bad. Can we get the middle chicane a little bit better this time? Coming through the 3rd part, we get a little bit of oversteer on the exit there, slightly better than lap 1, but still not great. As you can see, W up behind has my slipstream, heading up the hill. Through turn 9 we go. He is looking up the inside as we head into turn 10 here at Yamagiwa, and he is side by side heading through the long right-hander here. This is excellent racing. Excellent clean racing between the pair of us here, and I've got the inside now for the start of the S's, which is turn 11, 12, 13 and 14. I'm just pushing them over as far as I can to the right hand side of the circuit, just to extend his distance the O's to turn into these S's. Hopefully that leads him to get a poor run through there, and I think he gets caught up by a curb. If you're looking on the radar, just at the crucial point as we exited, he did have a little bit of an oversteer moment as he headed out of turn 14 there, and we have successfully defended that position, but he is once again less than 2 tenths behind as we head onto the main straight. He's going to be in my slipstream. Is he going to be able to launch a move up into turn 1? That is the next logical step here. No bump drafting, of course, with the current penalty system. You can easily get each other 2, 3, 4 second penalties from a simple bump draft, so we have to overtake or let off the throttle, and why would we let off the throttle in a car that is so dependent on momentum? So going for moves, it might look like we're fighting, but this is a nice wide open circuit, and really these cars at the end of the day are probably too slow for this kind of circuit, so there's plenty of room to move around and plenty of margin to play with, so we can kind of afford to sort of fight and battle for positions and not worry too much about the pack behind. It is still, of course, a factor. Of course, if you're just fighting mindlessly, overtaking every single corner, they will eventually catch up, but in the slower cars, you can afford to fight a little bit more as long as you keep your momentum up. Heading into the triple chicane, lap 3. Do we get some oversteer off there? No, but we just run over the edge of the curb there, but we get a much better run up the hill there. Keep an eye on the gaps between myself and second and myself and fourth. W got a much better run through that triple chicane, so he's much stronger through the triple chicane. I just drop a wheel off the edge of the curb on the entry to turn 10. That could have quite easily spun me around if I had slight braking pressure on as well, and you can see it puts me wide on the exit on the grass, but not quite grazing that Armco barrier there. He's looking around the outside, heading into the S's. He has that overlap there, and he is ahead at this point. I'm going to have to concede that position there. Going to have to be nice and gentle through here, especially as the tyres begin to drop off. As you can see in qualifying, or as you saw in qualifying, I ended up tripping myself up on the curbs going through there on my sort of faster lap. So it is very easy to lose the car going through, jumping on the curbs, as this car doesn't actually handle the curbs that well. So as we finish lap 3, just confirmation my brake balance there, it's 2 to the rear. In qualifying and practice, you want it towards the front, as sort of road cars, they're not so, well, they are, but your lap time isn't so dependent on trying to balance out the balance of the car with the brake balance. A lot of balances in one sentence, but what I'm trying to say is in a race car, you have to know the engine layout. So mid-engine rear-wheel drive, very oversteery, so you put front bias on, and then front-engine rear-wheel drive, they're quite oversteery, so you put sort of rear bias, and then cars, and then you can also factor in tyre wear as well, I guess, in the race, but in qualifying you do that. But in road cars, you can kind of ignore the sort of drivetrain layout of the car and just put your brake balance to the front to get maximum braking capabilities. So that's what we do in this kind of car here, but in the race, the front tyres are wearing out very quickly, so you can even already see on the bottom left-hand corner of your screen there, the tyre wear indicators. The left-hand side tyres already have approximately 5% tyre wear on both the front and the rear. It's slightly worse on the front already, and we have that too, +2 brake balance. So we are going to have to just keep in mind that the tyres might drop off, or they definitely will drop off, because I actually did this race. They did drop off, I can tell you that right now. So we are going to have to just be careful as we head through, especially over the top of these curbs. It does get bumpy, and like I said, yeah, the car not very friendly with the curbs, but we'll do the best we can. While we've been talking there, W has got a few tenths ahead, but he runs wide coming through the final corner, and we are going to have slipstream as we head onto the main straight there. He's washing out wide on the exit, uses all that curb and more onto the grass as we head out of the final corner there. And then we're just going to duck into that slipstream as we head down the main straight for the 4th time here. So I will say I'm actually enjoying this new exhibition series. Coming into turn 1, actually, we'll come back to that point. We just nudge him going into turn 1 there, so he's braking quite early. I felt as though I could have still made the corner because I'd like to trail brake into that one, and I really use the tyres to slow the car down there. Not probably a good idea in a race that has tyre wear where it can easily drop off, but yeah, I was braking much later than him going into turn 1, and you can see that translated into a little bit of a bump as we headed through there, and it was actually quite miraculous how somehow neither of us got a penalty for that, as the penalty system at the moment is truly shocking. You pretty much cannot make any contact whatsoever, no matter what the consequence, no matter who's at fault, anybody can get a penalty. Or if it was even slightly worse, contact between first and second would give bloody 14th position a penalty. It's almost that bad. As we head through the triple chicane, however, of lap 5, we get a poor run once again, and W just stretches out a gap. So now we're beginning to drop off W at this point, at this phase of the race here. So we are going to have to cast our attention to the car behind. GT Sport penalty, which is quite a ominous presence behind me here. Never too far from a GT Sport penalty, legend has it. So we are going to have to watch out for that player, all jokes aside. It's only 1.1 seconds behind. The new slipstream range is 7 tenths or less. So, you know, we can afford to lose half a second, but we can quite easily lose half a second in one mistake in these cars. If you lose momentum down a straight, especially because a lot of these, more of the lap is flat out in slower cars, obviously. So if you make a mistake, you do pay for it more than you do in faster cars, which can get back up to speed quite quickly. Heading into turn 1, catching up to W in the slipstream, we go for the dive down the inside, and that's what I'm talking about. We managed to get that pulled up on the apex, and we broke way later than W did on this lap and the previous lap. As we head through the chicane of turn 2 and 3, he's on the outside. There's going to be no way around the outside as we head through turn 2 into turn 3, up the hill towards turn 4. We're going to defend this one. On the inside, we just force him to the outside there, leave him plenty of room to try and go around the outside, but as we saw previously, not quite able to do that. So I suspect W may be running forward brake balance, as he hasn't quite got that steering rotation that I have. As you can see, I can rotate it so much quicker at the apex, whereas W tends to wash wide, even though he's braking earlier. As we head through the triple chicane, jumping over the curbs there, a little bit of oversteer on turn 7, but we managed to actually get an okay run out of turn 8 up the hill. However, W does have slipstream and I do not, obviously, and we sort of go for a half-hearted defense there, but we kind of just let him sort of get underneath me there. And as we turn in to turn 10 here, check this out, side by side, I think there was the most minuscule amount of contact, but nothing that sort of was even remotely considered dirty driving. It was still clean as an absolute whistle. So absolute shout out to this Wugogorigini guy here, as having an absolutely fantastic race here, and we're not battling sort of mindlessly. As you can see, the top 2 have pulled away, and I don't quite believe either of us have the raw pace to be able to catch that gap up in however many laps we have remaining. So we are sort of battling for position. We've both settled for 3rd is the highest we can that either of us can get, but we are just going to have to be ever more careful of that pack looming behind. As you can see, we took a look behind just briefly there, heading down the main straight, and GT Sport Penalty was quite close behind. Around the outside of turn 1, side by side with this guy, this is absolutely amazing racing. We do have the more momentum heading into turn 2. He's once again on the outside, and we managed to get that position, or keep that position there. If you're looking on the radar there, by the way, someone was suffering from a little bit of lag. GT Sport Penalty actually has got 1 bar of internet connection, so we're going to have to be careful of that. It's gone back up to 4 at this point, but we are going to have to be wary of that. If a driver is suffering from lag, it can honestly just give you bad luck, because you can a player like that can sort of lag into you and then lag off the track and give you a penalty. Absolutely ridiculous, but that's what the system is going with. Heading through the chicane, just saw the ground that W caught up on the entry there into the triple chicane, and he's right on my tail, about 1.5 tenths behind. And GT Sport Penalty is also very, very close behind W there at this point. Heading into turn 10, GT Sport Penalty looks up the inside of W and just displaces him for position. So we've now displaced W, Wugogorigini, down into 5th position. GT Sport Penalty is now in 4th position. I'm still up in the podium position of 3rd, and the top 2 have completely bolted. It's going to be definitely a battle for 3rd at this point here. So GT Sport Penalty has my slipstream. Heading into the final corner, we're going to try and defend this one. I think he has the superior grip at this point, because he sort of drew in so much ground. Heading through there, he kind of just levers me off the apex there. It was very quite clear on the apex, and then he got through with contact. He sort of just nudged the back of my car into an oversteer moment. I had to catch it, just walking my car wide. Just opened up a gap for him to go through there. Looking around the outside for turn 1, we managed to get this move done cleanly with W before, but he just gives me a little bit of contact on the way through, and then that just displaces me for position once again, and W is looking around the outside for turn 2. Not a good move. There you can see he backs out of that one quite sensibly, running side by side through there. Never a good idea, or is never going to be a good idea, as we didn't attempt it in this race. But I was actually a little bit frustrated at the move by GT Sport Penalty at this point here, trying to send it up the inside. You just saw that rear rotation we got just before the apex. Almost launched the car into the gap that he left there, but it was a very ambitious move, and we were not quite able to just pull that one off there. So I'm doing everything I can to try and get back past this guy cleanly, of course, because I was quite frustrated with his move there. I was quite clearly meeting the corner, and then he just sort of, you know, that comes under the banner of bump and run for me. If he got through there with no contact, fair enough, but at the end of the day, he nudged my backside, if that doesn't sound too dirty, and then the car went wide. He caused me to go wide via contact on his behalf, so, you know, not the best move out there, not the dirtiest, I may be overreacting, but I felt as though, you know, that is not quite the driving standards that we want to see in the game here, especially as we're getting up towards high splits. It's probably third split or something. So yeah, we'll try and just focus back onto the race now. We won't worry too much about the move there. As you can see, he washes wide going through turn 15, nearly said like 14 and 15 hybrid there. Turn 15, of course, final corner of the lap here. And we're heading into the closing stages of the race at this point here, so he's weaving across the track a little bit. He's trying to break that slipstream, and I guess, you know, to be fair to him, he is pulling away from me, so he's probably faster. Heading into turn 1, we just do go a little bit deep, actually, but we managed to pull it up and go for a late apex. There, we do catch in quite a bit of ground, actually, get a much better run through turn 1 than I had initially thought there, and we're looking around the outside for turn 2. We just keep the car there for a little bit longer than W has been on me, but I don't think neither of our runs were affected by that there. I think I'm just trying to sort of pressure him into a mistake at this point, because, you know, I do want to get back ahead of this guy here. So looking for that underlap on the way out, not quite going to happen there. It didn't quite get the move on. The car just wobbled a little bit on the apex. Heading down the hill towards the triple chicane, no moves through here, single file for days. As we head through turn 6, hopefully we don't sort of lose it on the curb. GT Sport penalty a little bit wide for 7, but he gets a good run up the hill and doesn't even use the curb actually, so he gets very good traction up the hill here. We do have the slipstream. We're going to be looking up the inside, but he goes slightly defensive. It just puts me off a move a little bit, and we're going to try and go for the sort of superior run through the middle of the corner, but he just brakes a little bit on the apex. That's absolutely fine. Parks it on the apex and just stops me from getting a move there using that curb on the exit. He's caught out 3/10. We're heading up the back straight here, heading through the S's for the 9th time. Let's see if we can get through here cleanly. You can sort of get the effects of slipstream. As you can see, we're catching up through here, even though you do want the downforce. You can still get effects of slipstream through those S's there. It's quite interesting the way the car sort of goes through there compared, you know, if you're comparing a slipstream to a non-slipstream lap. Runs very wide through the final corner, but gets a good run on the exit there, and that's going to sort of seal his fate for 3rd position heading into turn 1. Getting a good run off that final corner, you're never going to quite be able to get a move into turn 1 if you're the following car, as you just don't have the momentum down the straight. Closing up under brake, and once again looking round the outside there. How good, and there's a little bit of lag. It just puts me off as well. The car just oversteers slightly, and he manages to keep that position. Looking up around the outside for turn 2, but he just pulls in ahead. Probably would have backed out of that one anyway, as I have been previously through this race here. And we still got W behind, so it's not all over. So if GT Sport penalty does pull away, we could still have a race. A little bit of contact through there, so I'm not quite going to go for that move there. Do get an SR down for that, so that's fair enough. Flash the hazards to apologise. Very big sort of indicator lights in front of this car, so he would have seen that if he looked behind. Apologising for that one there. I don't want to sort of bump and run him. I want to get a nice clean move. We're not V8 supercars here. We are Mazda Roadster Touring Cars. We are not going to be sort of bumping and running our fellow competitors. ZW gets the exit of the chicane slightly incorrect. It just drops him 5/10 behind there. So that is going to sort of relieve some pressure from behind. I can focus on 3rd position for a little bit longer here, and that could play into my hands as well. So W has actually dropped out of slipstream. 1.1 seconds behind, 1.2 seconds at this point. It's almost going to be 1.3 as we head through the S's. So W has made a couple of mistakes on the exit of the triple chicane and then on the exit of turn 10. So that's going to be sort of good for me. GT Sport penalty gets a poor run through the S's there, and I almost went up the inside at that point, but he just turns in very early, defends that position nicely. That is fair enough for him. Trying to get onto the power through the final corner, actually get a poor run through there. I was in 3rd gear for the majority of that corner. You probably want to be in 4th. But coming into the slipstream now, we're gaining down the straight and heading into turn 1. We know we're strong in the braking zone here. Once again, looking around the outside, we just go a little bit too deep into the marbles, and you can see how much ground we lose. We probably lose sort of 4 or 5/10 thanks to going into the marbles, compared to if we didn't, heading through the double chicane, or the regular chicane, I guess, technically. You can see he is just streaking away at this point here, so 5/10 ahead, so we can see, I think GT Sport Penalty might have looked after his tyres a little bit more, because this is exactly what I was talking about. So towards the end of the race, the tyres do drop off, so you can begin to get a difference between two players who drive differently. So I think I was sort of going for a more aggressive approach in this race. You could see I was trying to outbrake people and go around their outsides into turn 1, as I was quite strong through there, and trying to get sort of on the power as early as possible through these long corners. But I think GT Sport Penalty has taken a more conservative approach and sort of capitalising on mistakes of other people to get positions rather than actually going for moves. And I think that's paying dividends for him. So I've just dropped out of the slipstream there as we went through the triple chicane there. Got a poor run up the hill once again, so I was not strong through that triple chicane, and it's proving to be my nemesis as we go through here. We're on lap 11 at this point, so we're in the closing stages. So it's important at this point to just focus on my own driving, especially now that gaps have opened up either side of me. So we're just going to have to focus on the S's, make sure we don't make any mistakes, as this is kind of a hot spot. But then coming through here, I have a massive moment, almost completely sideways, sliding down that straight there, and I just catch it in time. That was honestly, my heart jumped out of my throat at that point. There, almost completely threw away a good position after a good fight with a couple of people in this race here. But yeah, we got through there okay, so I think that was kind of a warning for me. You know, that was the game telling me, just calm it down. Your tyres don't have as much grip as they did on lap 1, so just be very, very careful, please. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. So while there's a little bit of a few gaps between myself, I can talk about the series overall. I'm quite enjoying this exhibition series, actually. Sort of the official season was very sort of, not intense, but there was a lot, you know, you had to put in a lot of time to sort of even make the slots, as there were 4 races a week, actually, if you're doing nations and manufacturers. On Tuesdays and Wednesdays there was a nations and a manufacturers, and then on Saturdays there was nations and a manufacturers on the same day. Absolutely insane. But now this season you've got one of each race per week. It's a much more sort of relaxed schedule, and I much prefer it. And the Nations Cup actually happens to fall on one of my days off in a week, so that kind of works out well. So I'm able to sort of jump on after lunchtime, do some practice, maybe do a couple of daily races, and then sort of make some dinner and do the race at 6 p.m. And if the first slot goes fine, which this is the 6 p.m. slot, so the first slot of the evening, and it went fine, I'll settle with that. We'll just do the one round, but if I bin it, I have plenty of other slots after, like 4 other slots after. So that's nice. Manufacturers is a little bit more complicated. It's on a Saturday, one of my work days, and I work all afternoon into the evening, into the sort of late evening. So I'm only able to jump on the 10 past 10 or 20 past 10 slot and have a one shot, and I also don't really have much opportunity for practice. Thankfully, halfway through the season, however, they swap over, so Nations changes to a Saturday and Manufacturers changes to a Wednesday, or a Tuesday or something like that. Wednesday, I think it is. So that's going to be beneficial for me. If I wanted to sort of participate in Manufacturers a little bit more competitively, which I will. Heading on to the final lap now, however, Wogogorigini has caught up there. As we head through turn 1, there was a little bit of contact as I performed an undercut. Going through turn 1, he tried to outbrake me in the slipstream, and to be fair to him, he did quite a good job there, but I got that undercut on the way out, and I was able to keep that position. A little bit of contact on the way through, but yeah, look, that, you know, I tried to do an undercut. It was a clean move at the end of the day. Nobody went off the track, and we only swapped positions rather than sort of completely ruining another person's race, which is fine. So you can see Wogorigini is going to be quite desperate to catch up one more position here. GT Sport Penalty has driven away from me in that final podium paying position of 3rd, so he's going to get quite a good decent bunch of points there. Still a little bit salty over the complete bump and run that he did coming through. I think it was the final turn of lap 7 or something, like lap 10 or whatever it was. But I don't know, to be fair to him, he is faster. He probably would have got past eventually in any case, so we can kind of forget about that at this point. We can just focus on the race between myself and Bugurigini here. We've got about half a lap to go, or not even, about a third of a lap to go. Just the S's at this point. That front left is very worn, heading towards sort of 50% tyre wear, so we're going to have to be very careful. We turn in very early for turn 12, just trying to overcompensate for that very worn tyre, and Bugurigini gets a much superior run through the S's. Looking around the outside of the final corner, not going to be possible on the late stages of the race on very worn tyre. We just closed the door on the inside there, heading out towards the exit. He is going to be in my slipstream, very close behind, less than a tenth behind as he pulls out, trying to go side by side down the straight, heading up towards the finish line. He is slowly gaining, but it's not going to be enough. He just gets 5th position. I managed to keep 4th by about half a tenth there. So, oh wow, that was a good finish, eh? So, honestly, if he was a little bit more patient and had a bit of a bigger gap going onto that main straight, he may have been able to get past me, but I just backed it up on the apex. He was not able to get past. He was right on my backside, heading onto the main straight, and he wasn't able to get the slingshot past. But at the end of the day, after qualifying 6th with door number 8, we come home in 4th position, 202 points, which is my personal best, actually. I think I got like 198 for my previous one in the Bugattis, so that was nice there. Shout out to Bugurigini there as well for the absolutely amazing battle from start to finish, basically. So very good. He did express his gratitude for the race in the lobby afterwards, so that is nice to see, and it's nice to have a good, clean battle with someone that is, you know, the same level, same pace as you. Very nice to see. That's what we play the game for. But I do hope you enjoyed. Do hit that like button if you did. Do subscribe if you'd like to see more videos from me. Do leave a comment as well. Questions, comments, and constructive criticism, as always, very much appreciated. But that's going to be the end of this one today, and that means that is it from me. So once again, I do thank you very much for watching. See you later.